our son Gabriel, who died, I mentioned, prematurely, is an incredible story of the impact of his life, not just with us, but really beyond. And she wrote a book about it called Letters to Gabriel, where she, when she found out that our son had a fatal abnormality, she, with all of our kids, she would write a diary about when she found out she was pregnant and sort of keep a diary for it. And she turned that diary into where when she found out at 18 or 19 weeks that he was going to die, she started pouring her feelings and thoughts into that. And so we got the diagnosis, and long story short, that we were able to find a doctor who was going to do intrauterine surgery. He had a valve that wasn't opening and closing, and therefore his bladder was just huge, and there was no amniotic fluid, because the baby's pee is the amniotic fluid.
Yes,
they swallow and they pee, and that's the amniotic fluid.
Right.
And so they had this post-urethral valve, so it's in the urethra, and it was closed and it wouldn't open. And so we ended up going to a hospital in Philadelphia. They did intrauterine surgery, and they were able to fix it. But a couple of days later, she got an infection from the surgery in her womb, and it was becoming full of horrible infection. Yeah. The amniotic sac and the placenta was infected, and it was affecting her. And she had like 103 fever, and so I had to rush her to the hospital, and she went into labor because her body now wants to expel the infection. And of course, it was one of the worst, maybe the worst night of my life, where she was saying, "No, he'll die." I said, "Well, if you don't let this progress, and in fact, they need to accelerate the progression, because the longer it stays in, you could die." And so they encouraged the labor to continue, and she ended up delivering little Gabriel, and so that's when I talk about that. But the interesting is that, again, I don't mean to run down this rabbit trail, but that happened as I mentioned, at the same time that I was on the floor debating partial birth abortion.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And
which this is just a story of providence that you can't make up.
And during the debate, all of the people who were arguing that this process of late-term abortion should be kept legal, and this horrific procedure was in cases like Gabriel, where they found out that baby was not what they were expecting, or not even Gabriel, cases like Down syndrome or Bella, that late in pregnancy, they found out their baby is not perfect, and so they wanted abortion. And you see that, like, Iceland announced last year that they now have 0 Down syndrome births. Right. Yeah. Well, there's only one reason you have 0 Down syndrome births, is because you're aborting all these children. And they were out there calling for the aborting of disabled children. That was their argument. And I remember getting up, and this was before this all happened. I said, and I mentioned that my wife has a sonogram, and with our son, and I have no idea whether there's going to be anything wrong with that, but it doesn't matter. If there's something wrong with him, I'm not going to abort him. If he was 19 weeks old as opposed to 19 weeks gestation, and he got sick, would I kill him? No, you do everything you can to save your son. Well, that would be the same thing here. And then we went to that sonogram, and we found out he was going to die, right?
Yeah. Hey, thanks guys for checking out the Conor Gallagher Show. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, or comment, or whatever you got to do to support it. And I appreciate that very much.